Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we cover the three biggest stories in the manufacturing industry and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. But before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by giving the podcast a positive review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. And I say either or, but it seems like everyone typically emails all of us at once. You know, just wants to blanket coverage.
They don't want to show favorites.
Is that why I never get any just to me then?
Might be why.
We're also live every Thursday at 2 p.m., so subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live. I tell you what, guys, it feels good to be back. How's everything going since I saw you last week?
It's good. If you hear me a little bit more nasally in this episode, maybe talking over some cough drops, I'll apologize in advance. Just trying to sort of get the final throes of this sinus situation taken care of.
It's just been passed around the office. I mean, maybe it's because for hours at a time, our small office sits together in a studio that has
Couldn't
zero
have
ventilation.
Anything to do with it. No.
Nothing. Anna, how you doing this week?
I also at the end of this forever cold, it feels like, but we're almost out of February, and so at least mentally, I'm feeling good about maybe. I don't know.
We just got to start getting those windows open earlier. That's all.
I'm going to have to.
Way earlier. Producer Eric, we are doomed. Absolutely doomed.
David's doomed. He's in a toxic sandwich right now.
Oh, man. I just got back from Mexico. I am a toxic sandwich. Come on now. Right? I'm 87% mezcal right now. And it feels great. Come down's going to be hard, though. Anyway, before we jump into our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsors at Interpower. This week's episode is brought to you by Interpower. Why pay more for power cords when you don't have to? Made in the U.S.A., our cords are made from the best raw materials and undergo rigorous testing. Need reliable power cords? Get them with no minimum orders. Why play cord roulette with imports? We're on a roll. Tariff-free cords by Interpower. There is a link to get these tariff-free cords in the body copy. There's a link to get these tariff-free cords in the live chat. So go get yourself some of these tariff-free cords. Nailed that one. We don't need to do it again. We'll just reuse that over and over again. All right, our first story this week. Tennessee Volkswagen workers ratify first union contract. About 2 years ago, workers at the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, voted to establish one of the first unions at an auto factory in the South. Last Thursday, they approved their first contract. 96% of UAW workers at the Chattanooga plant voted in favor of the deal after months of slow-moving negotiations. Workers are going to receive immediate bonuses of more than $6,500, a 20% wage increase over the life of the 4-year deal, job security benefits, and cuts of at least 20% in health care premiums. VW said the contract reflected a, quote, shared commitment to competitive wages, strong benefits, and the long-term success of our employees and operations. Jeff, will this win create renewed energy of unionization efforts for the region's auto industry and in the broader manufacturing workforce?
I don't know about the broader manufacturing workforce. I think they've got some definite opportunities here in the South with these auto plants. I think they're already sort of got some pretty strong inroads in a couple of plants in Alabama with Hyundai and I believe Mercedes. So it'll be interesting to see where those go. I think the thing that really surprised me here is when you look at both Tennessee, where this facility is, and Alabama, where the next ones could potentially come on board with UAW, those are both right-to-work states, which there's less pressure, obviously, on these employees, on these plants, to embrace a union. But I have to give Sean Fain a lot of credit here. I was pretty critical when he came on board with how forceful that he was going after the big three. But they've been able to take that strike and everything that they gained a couple years back in that whole negotiations with the big three and really use that to promote their stance and what they can do for auto workers in places where unions have not been as popular in the past. I think that's what we saw here. I mean, they did embrace the UAW membership about 2 years ago, so it has been a while, but now they've got the first contract in place. They can point to some very, very important improvements that they've made here and sort of helping to self-promote them to other facilities. So it is going to be very interesting to see where this goes, to see how much more advantage they can take of this. Now, I don't know if it'll go into other manufacturing, but when you look into other automotive facilities, it's not just cars and trucks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff down south, especially in Texas, where you get into larger classes of vehicles, semis and things like that. That could be other opportunities for UAW. I think the big one that's still on their board is Toyota. There are no UAW Toyota facilities, plants in the U.S. So I think that could also be a way to, I don't know, at least get on the radar and get those conversations reignited potentially there. Because if some of those big Toyota facilities were even to have a vote, not even say, have UAW membership, but just to get on the radar, that would be a next big step for them.
Well, and I know Blue Oval's certainly on the radar as well. I'll get into that in a little bit. But my thought was that any one of these, Jeff, the $6,500 bonus, the 20% wage increase over 4 years, job security, or the 20% decrease in health care premiums, any one of those would have been a huge win for the UAW and spreading their message. Just because these are... right now, this is helping thousands of workers with something that everyone in America is facing right now.
Well, especially the medical benefits. That's a huge one. I mean, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
And to have some guarantees there, obviously that's got to provide peace of mind for all those employees.
Right.
On another level.
Yeah. I guess I don't know how much their healthcare went up. I mean, maybe it went up 28% and the 20% decrease is just making it, less
palatable.
Yeah. But I mean, but it's really incredible. Anna, whenever we talk about these unionization efforts, strikes, whether or not they're successful or fail, it is a very polarizing topic. And there's nobody in the middle, right? There's nobody that's just like, you know what, you do you. Like, hey, the getting's good for everybody. So, if you can, prop yourself up, good on you. It's never that. It's either like union yes, union no, good versus evil. And man, it was the same in the IAN reader comment section.
It sure was. I know, because when I first saw this, I was like, well, great. I mean, this is like an illustration of how well the UAW contracts have gone for the workers under Shawn Fain. As Jeff mentioned, that deal that was made with the big three at the very end of 2024, that was considered like historic, right? Yeah. And then to see this also happen in such a short time frame, I mean, these are a couple of really big wins. You want to see people look at this and think, maybe it's a rising tide type scenario. The comment section on our website was a lot more, I would say, sour grapes.
Yeah.
And people tend to go back to, I think, their perceptions around unions and what these types of contracts mean. And the three main points that were being made repeatedly here were the unions are greedy, prices on these autos will go up, and I'll never buy from Volkswagen.
Yeah, okay, that's the one that sticks out to me. Just like, how do you see a victory for 5,500 workers and be like, well, the one thing I know is I'm never buying one again? It's just such a non sequitur to me.
It didn't make sense, but I will respond, I think, to these individual points that were being made. One, the unions are greedy mentality. I think that's something that speaks really to the reality of how entrenched this belief has become that unions are corrupt. And UAW has put a lot of effort into trying to change that perception over the last few years. Complete change in leadership, really trying to root out the corruption and being really forced to as well. But it's easier said than done, right? I think there's going to be people for their entire lifetime that will never think anything beyond that unions are just align with corruption, and they're just these schemes for people to,
buy a new
embezzle
house.
Money. And yes, I mean, because we saw so much of that.
Yep. Yeah.
So not made as much progress there in the eyes of the public as maybe they would have liked yet. The position about the prices going up I thought was interesting because I wanted to look into that. So there were predictions after that big win with UAW Big Three in late 24 that the price of the average vehicle would go up around $900. Mm-hmm. That was what they thought at the time of those big three vehicles. So has it? Well, yes and no. According to Cox Automotive, the average new vehicle price broke $50,000 for the first time in September. But Cox said not only did it align with inflation, but also it was due to EVs and luxury vehicles skewing the average. So I don't think that there's very much evidence pointing to the fact that like these union contracts, which increase the wages obviously for a lot of plants building Fords, Stellantis vehicles and GMs, were actually driving up the price in the last 2 years of these vehicles. So, I mean, just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the I'll never buy from VW. Okay. I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily rational to your point.
Yeah.
I would also say to Jeff's point as well, if union made autos turn you off, you're kind of you're in kind of a shrinking pool in terms of
Toyota. Sorry,
you got Toyota, you have Tesla, and Hyundai, Kia for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Well, Hyundai's a South Korean company. They have unions in
South Korea. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a weird hill to die on, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it is such a it reminds me of just when you're at a bar or when you're playing cards with a bunch of guys and people are just like, yeah, unions are all corrupt. And you're like, come on, man, get off the talking points. But I mean, that is a good reminder to union leadership to really make sure that they continue to do their due diligence to root out any potential corruption and prevent it from going forward. Because think of talk about a few bad apples spoiling the bunch. They did just so much damage to union effectiveness and public goodwill. And it's incredible. So while you continue on this path of winning, just be careful. Doug, who's joining us live, says, hi, gang. And the gang says hi back, Doug. It's good to see you. He says he has 2 Chattanooga-built vehicles. Oh, he'll have 2 soon, an ID4 and an Atlas. He's had the ID4 since 2023.
Doug, we're vehicle twinsies. I have an ID4 and my husband has an Atlas.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Is Doug your husband?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
His pseudonym?
Oh, well, I don't know.
It's forever has been Doug Hatch. Well, that's incredible. And a great vehicle. One thing that a couple of things that stood out to me. So Yogi Peebles, he's the bargaining committee member for UAW, said, quote, our victory here at Volkswagen should send a message to auto workers everywhere. Don't let management divide you. When workers fight together, united and afraid, we can beat the odds and win. Now, there are a lot of statements like this. I pulled this one out in particular because when I was in Anaheim for the show, when I was just randomly sitting next to some guy at the bar at Roost Chris, you just kind of hey, what do you do? What do you do? And he was a union buster. Mm-hmm. That's what he did. He was in town because there were some strikes at a local business, and he was the guy that brought in the temporary workers and tried busting up the union efforts. And so it is these stories to make sure that don't let management divide you. We have friends of friends who are currently going through the same thing. Unionization efforts are difficult and can be very painful for people. And it takes a lot personally and emotionally, mentally to stay the course. And you don't, even if you do, there's still not a high percentage that things are going to go well for you. Also for the UAW, I mean, it's really every time they have a win, it's just on to the next, right? So I mentioned it earlier, but earlier this month, workers at Blue Oval SK in Kentucky delivered a petition with more than 1,000 signatures to the company's corporate offices in Elizabethtown, demanding that Ford recognize the union and meet with workers to negotiate over the future of the site. In August, workers voted in favor of the unionizing the joint venture in Kentucky, but then the company spent months fighting to undermine the results of the election until December, apparently just before Christmas, when they informed more than 1,600 workers that their jobs were going to be terminated on Valentine's Day. So while the NLRB ruled against the company's challenges to the vote, determining that the union could be certified and recognized by the company, it was just I mean, at the UAW, they're always working on something. I mean, there are so many different, if you look at their efforts across the U.S., it's just, it's good for them to get a minute and have a victory, but then you're just like, oh my God, they got a lot of irons in the fire right now. So kind of continue to track things at Blue Oval SK in Kentucky and see how things pan out there. All right. Our next most popular story this week, a rendering facility sued for, quote, boiling blood and death odors detected 10 miles away. And let's get through this one after lunch because it is visceral. So the state of Texas filed a lawsuit against Darling Ingredients, accusing the company of illegally emitting odors and air contaminants from its rendering facility near Austin. The smells can be detected up to 10 miles away, with some describing them as resembling boiling blood and death. Founded in 1882 and based in Irving, Texas, Darling Ingredients converts materials from animal agriculture and food industries into ingredients for animal and human consumption, crop fertilization, and aviation fuel. The company operates more than 260 facilities across more than 15 countries. This facility, targeted by the lawsuit, processes cooking grease and chicken byproducts like meat, fat, bone, and feathers. The site has a processing plant and a feather plant. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, has received nearly 1,500 complaints regarding Darling Ingredients facility since May 2024, and hundreds of them came in just the last 3 months. Reported health effects include nausea, headaches, vomiting, burning throats, and eyes. One resident, and this one really stood out, you'll know why in a second. One resident described the smell as, quote, festering dog vomit on fire. That's probably maybe like a new Jelly Belly coming. And indicated that they would rather smell burning tires. TCEQ conducted multiple investigations at the site since July 2024, documenting several alleged violations of TCEQ's rules. For example, in October 2025, investigators detected hydrogen sulfide levels at an average of 197.8 parts per billion. The limit is 80 parts per billion. That's nearly 200 compared to 80. Last July, Darling agreed to an order with TCEQ, which required it to implement measures to minimize odors and contain the hydrogen sulfide concentrations. According to the TCEQ, the company has not complied. The state wants damages from anywhere from $250,000 to more than $1 million. Darling told IEN, quote, we are committed to being a good neighbor and protecting the health and safety of our employees and the communities where we operate. Jeff, just how committed do you think Darling is to being a good neighbor?
0. They absolutely don't care, and they kind of have a track record to prove it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a number. You can go back, Darling's recent history, all over the place. They've got different issues and environmental complaints against them. I think what's really interesting here, and actually a good example of that, a plant in Fresno, California faced a similar situation here with all of the issues. They started in 2014 with their complaints and their efforts. By 2020, they had a commitment from the company to shut down the facility. Didn't happen until 2024. Okay, so it's a decade that they were basically working. The citizens were there, no government agencies or anything else. The city did get involved at some point to help facilitate closing down the plant, but basically it was people doing what, raising enough heat to make something happen. And even here, you're looking again at a state agency that's really taking on the brunt of this work to get something done. Fines will do absolutely nothing. This is an $8 billion company with global locations. They don't care. Yeah. Okay, that's obvious here. So, and I think what's more concerning is not just that they don't care, but they don't. There's a tone right now where they don't have to. Yeah. It reminded me of another article that we recently ran talking about a 20% drop in OSHA inspections. I was really surprised in looking through this. You didn't see anything from OSHA. You didn't see anything from the EPA. This is all just the state of Texas going after these folks. Yeah. And in that article that we ran, We looked at not only 20% fewer inspections, but 35% fewer cases, $94 million less in penalties during the Trump administration and compared to previous years, what OSHA has handed out and going after folks. So if you've got somebody who isn't afraid of the state of Texas, there's not going to be a federal arm that's going to get involved here, which I think has been demonstrated. They're going to continue to do this until it just becomes a hostile environment almost, and they have no other choice but to move on.
Yeah.
It's really sad, but it almost feels like that's the dynamic that these folks in Irving are dealing with right now.
Right. And it's Texas. The state of Texas is going after them, which is just, and don't get me wrong, like, I am all about using every part of the animal that you harvest. And if it means that, and if you're boiling down feathers to make aviation fuel, that's great. But there also has to be a way to do it so that way people don't feel like they're living in dog vomit that's set on fire.
Well, and that's the thing that's also kind of surprising here, I guess, because this facility has been there for 30 years.
Yeah.
And all of these complaints are really the last 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So what happened here?
Something changed.
Right.
I mean, I understand they're doing more work with renewable fuel sources and things like that. So maybe obviously that's a different process, but that doesn't explain why all of a sudden there's 1,400 complaints coming out about smells and making people sick.
Well, and Anna, this reminds me of partially like of our plastics problem. Like this is a problem that we have, and that a solution to this problem will impact everyone in the U.S. and globally positively, right? Whereas instead we wind up in this pissing contest where nobody's going to blink, nobody's happy, and as a result, thousands of people got to live in these conditions that sound like boiling, or that smell like boiling blood and feces and God knows what else. And it's very unfortunate that these types of situations wind up coming down to like the least common denominator, and just, we're we're racing to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a good look. That's for sure.
The optics are bad.
They're bad. I'll get to that in a minute. First off, I do want to hand it to TCEQ for this. For anyone who caught the podcast last week, we actually covered another story where TCEQ was involved in trying to manage a situation with a company that said it was recycling old wind turbine parts, and we're just like taking them for money and then leaving them there.
Yeah.
Not doing anything.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah. The turbine graveyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think it just goes to show, like, states that have these agencies and are able to fund them, they can be effective in terms of like putting a thumb on some of these companies that are, because again, inspections are most certainly down at a federal level, and that is not a good thing in my opinion. But even before that, the number of facilities to inspect based on the number of people there were to inspect them, it was really kind of like, you're on a dartboard, and you could go a really long time without ever having to answer to anybody. So to have these locally, I think, is important. All that said, my position on this is like, you always hear people say, "Not in my backyard," and this NIMBY concept always makes people mad. It's like become this very distasteful characterization of like no one is accepting of manufacturing or industrial or development or whatever. They don't want any of that stuff by them. It's okay by other people.
Why aren't you pro-business?
Why aren't you pro-business?
Yeah.
Why aren't you pro-jobs? People ask me that all the time.
Yeah. Why do you hate jobs, Anna?
Why do you hate jobs so much? I do think that people have a right to not like this.
Yeah.
And I think the story gives the suggestion, and the smell gives the suggestion, honestly, that there might be more behind this than just like, we don't like it. There could be like actual pollutants involved. You mentioned some of the levels that were completely out of compliance.
Yeah.
I think there's probably more to that than we even know. To your point, Jeff, the number of complaints about this facility is really insane when you think about like that.
1,500 complaints in 3 months. Like, that's crazy.
So you can understand why it's being investigated. And when equipment is failing and is not complying with this order from TCEQ, no, they're not committed to being a good neighbor, because they would try to be in compliance if they were. I think that stories like these do a disservice to manufacturing and processing industries in general, because I think it gives the suggestion that these homeowners are being subject to dog vomit on fire smells. And the company is absolutely unwilling to do anything about it. And you picture these people being kind of stuck with Darling Ingredients' response until they are forced to be shut down or change or something. And you know, if they're already under an order to change and they haven't even done that.
Right.
So, I don't know. To me, it's just like these types of stories. These are why there is so much community pushback when even like much more innocuous, like neutral type manufacturing facilities or warehouses, like this is why people say no.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They don't know what's going to happen. They see stuff like this and they think, well, what if I buy a house here and it loses all of its value because it smells like dog vomit?
Yeah.
Or what if I have to live with it and there's nothing we can do about it? And so I think it makes everyone just more fearful, more cautious when it comes to industrial developments in general.
Yeah.
So that's makes me mad, not just for these people, but for the industry in general, having to like deal with the fallout of this type of scenario.
Well, and we haven't even mentioned the potential workforce. You know, I mean, people that are interested in or a potential employee for filling that growing skills gap in manufacturing. This does nothing to help that.
No.
A story where they're just like, what does it smell like again? No, it's a pass for me.
Right.
Because
like,
they wind up getting lumped into manufacturing as a whole.
Or even these products. I mean, the stuff that, in theory, they're producing, those are the things we want.
Yeah.
We want the sustainable aviation fuel. We want some of these other renewable options here. And if it has this type of black eye, yeah, it's going to hurt growth in that area too.
Yeah. And it's just gross.
it's gross.
Well, there's a lot of things that are gross.
True.
If you don't throw it in people's faces,
Yeah.
or up their nose, they can get through it.
No, I mean, there's
a lot of things that are gross.
No, but I mean, there's something to that. Like when you're in a facility, a town that makes dog food, like sometimes if residents know, like, hey, there's a certain process, and this time on this day, and this time on this day, it's going to smell bad for a hot minute. It's kind of like people that live by a landfill, right? Where they're just like, hey, we're going to burn off this day and this day. Keep the windows closed, you know, like, so maybe there are other ways that they could work together. Maybe do whatever these processes are during the middle of the night. I don't know. It sounds dreadful and it's doing nobody any good. All right. Well, our most popular story this week, dead vehicle crowned America's new cheapest car. If you're in the market for a cheap new car, your options are limited. I mean, and actually is not having an option, like still an option. So like if you are optionless, that's the option of not having an option, right? Think about
David.
it. Think about it.
I would just...
The U.S. market no longer has a new vehicle with an average MSRP below $20,000. According to Kelley Blue Book, the all but gone Mitsubishi Mirage was the last hope. This makes the Nissan Versa the new cheapest car at $22,315. But hang on a minute. Breaking news, the Versa is dead too. Nissan killed it in December. Did the Versa die so Nissan's product strategy could live? Josh Clifton, Nissan's product manager, senior product communications manager, told The Drive Nissan remains committed to offering affordable and stylish vehicles in the sedan segment like the Sentra and Altima. There's also the Chevy Trax and Hyundai Venue SE, which still come in at less than $25,000. But Anna, times are tough for car buyers. And as we've previously reported on the podcast, on the websites, the used market isn't offering many breaks for people either.
No, it's not. You look at how prices have been climbing, and even at this point, even just being maintained is a lot. It's putting some new vehicle purchases out of reach for an entire class of buyers, and that I think that class of buyers is actually getting bigger. But yeah, I think it's important to look at the role of the pre-owned market and how pricing and availability of used cars is actually making this an even tougher pill to swallow, unfortunately. According to CNBC, while the Consumer Price Index in January showed that used car prices were down 2% from a year earlier, it really doesn't tell the whole story on affordability. Consider that the average price of a used car up to 8 years old in 2025 was just over $30,000, which was up 27.6% since 2020.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That the report says that even as experts anticipate more supply in the used car market this year, consumers probably won't see much relief when it comes to pricing. And again, a lot of that increase came during the 2020 to 2023 period. We all remember the pandemic, yes.
Mm-hmm.
When vehicle supply chains and production issues created this completely horrible snafu in auto. Some of those insane prices never really came back to earth. I think as we expected that they wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Edmunds said, this is an insane stat, so I have to share it. Edmunds said that the average amount financed for a used vehicle in January was around $29,000. And the average interest rate was 10.5%. If financed over the average loan period, which is around 70 months now, you're paying nearly $10,000 in interest over the life of that loan.
Wow.
Which is like, I mean, that's a big consideration, right? When you consider like what the cost of this vehicle is, already coming in about $30,000 on average. And these are used vehicles. So I think you read articles like this and you want to, like, some people's instinct is to say like, well, if you're that price sensitive, you should not be buying a new car anyway. Because people are thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And my response to that would be, you can't buy a used car either.
Yeah.
No, yeah, your options are just extremely limited.
For sure.
Yeah. Jeff, is a sub $20,000 vehicle even possible anymore to make?
Well, yeah, there are in China. They're making them.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what's going to be interesting here, because I have the same thought process in terms of looking at the used car market and what's going on there, and it's just not cooled. I mean, it's maybe come closer to earth, but it's still in a different parallel. So with that being the case, and with used cars costing more than some new vehicles, I really think this whole cyclical nature of things is going to come back into play.
Yeah.
Ford has already discussed the possibility of bringing back some sedans, not basically saying we're going to, but the idea is there.
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't killed those things.
Totally could.
Even Nissan, who is killing the Versa here, they're still very heavily dependent on stuff like the Sentra and the Altima. Those are four-door sedans. So I think you're going to see at some point in the near future some of these other automakers going, there is a gap here. Not everybody wants or can afford a $50,000 SUV or truck. Hey, don't we have something that might work?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we do have all this stuff. What about the Malibu? What about the some of the other options that were out there that were recently killed?
The Cobalt?
I don't know, let's not go that far.
Bring the Cobalt back?
But there are other things out there. And the other thing that I think, if you are a Geely or a BYD and you have shown the ability to make and sell these lower priced vehicles, you have to be looking, even though the tariffs and all the other sales infrastructure make it very difficult for those vehicles to get into the U.S. market, you have to start looking at it. When you see these types of pricing and the fact that you could come in and just undercut and create a whole new market, there's opportunity there for somebody.
Yeah.
Someone's going to take advantage of it.
Well, and so I was really thinking about that because, according to Cox Automotive, data showed that car makers sold fewer than 4,000 subcompact cars in January. And these were less than 26. These were cars that were less than $26,000 in January. I mean, it shows that the subcompact car fails to attract buyers. And I was just wondering, is this a greater example of this sort of K-shaped economy that we are experiencing right now, where things are getting a lot better for the top half and the things are getting a lot worse for the lower half? Just because I think about when I was in a certain spot, and the idea of getting a new car for less than $20,000 was very attractive, and so I wonder if there are bigger issues at play economically that might be having a role, and as to whether or not there's demand there just because they're not cool. We've covered Slate Auto, right? Slate Auto has been teasing this EV truck that's bare bones, and they're still saying that it's going to come in mid $20,000 range.
I don't think they're saying that anymore.
They just did. They just said it. And but again, they stressed bare bones. It was.
But I think that's the difference. again, I don't think it's economic. I think it's just the market in its cycles and going through different wants and needs and desires. And you get what you want, right?
Yeah.
All we want is trucks and SUVs. Then you get it, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, come on, can't
Maybe
get a
not.
subcompact.
Maybe not.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a reason, like, all of those compact car parking spots are always empty. Do something else with them. Sorry, but also, we did a story that had to do with Mitsubishi Mirages slowly disappearing and the Nissan Versa going the other way. No puns. That's all I'm saying. You're welcome. There were so many. There's like the script was originally twice as long. But I wanted to point to two comments just because I feel like we get this sentiment a lot. And I think this is part of the reason that Slate Auto is so popular right now in terms of interest to see what it's going to look like. Because as Jonathan Williams said on the site, long live knobs and buttons. All that fancy stuff is a maintenance nightmare for those of us who happily keep vehicles going for 20 years. Too much electronic junk to break. And will those screens be available 20 years from now? To which Mr. H just replied, Jonathan Williams' comment reflects my feelings exactly. So, and I think we hear that a lot. It's like, there was this push to kind of make cars consumer electronic devices. And some people are just like, I just want to roll down my window with a knob. I don't need it. And I want it to cost less. Do you think there's part of that?
I mean, I think that is the other pole, if you will, of the thought process. I think that's a bit further than the majority would go. I think it really comes down to, because you could say the same thing about a cell phone. All I want is the phone to sound good. I don't need all the other stuff. But once it's there, you use it, you appreciate it. And I think most people are the same way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, just get me an affordable vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was, buying vehicles for the girls and stuff, it's like, man, this is ridiculous trying to find a used vehicle that I can trust and that is not ridiculously priced. And it was very difficult. It was very hard.
Man. Well,
looking forward to that, guys.
No, by then everything's going to be autonomous, and it'll just be a fleet of readily available vehicles for everyone to kind of jump in, because we'll never really get on board with mass transit. But a lot of autonomous cars everywhere, no problem. That's America. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, we have another word from our sponsor, Interpower. This week's episode is brought to you by Interpower. Why pay more for power cords when you don't have to? Made in the U.S.A., our cords are made from the best raw materials and undergo rigorous testing. Need reliable power cords? Get them with no minimum orders. Why play cord roulette with imports? We're on a roll. Tariff-free cords by Interpower. There is a link to your tariff-free cords in the body copy and in the comments section. In case you missed it, story's not as popular, but still could make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
I picked a story about Autodesk partnering with a U.S. Paralympian to advance next-gen prosthetics. This was a timely story that was, released right around the time of the Olympics and the Paralympics. And it's about Mike Schultz, who is a 2-time Paralympian and 3-time Paralympic medalist. Also a designer, and is the founder of a company called BioDapt, which designs, manufactures, and distributes high-performance lower limb prosthetic components used for action sports. Mm-hmm. So what's happening here is Autodesk has announced a partnership with BioDapt to advance the next gen of these prosthetics for para-athletes preparing to compete in Los Angeles in 2028 and beyond. And the beyond part, I think, is what's the interesting part. They said the partnership will build on months of technical collaboration between the two teams on Fusion, which is Autodesk's AI-powered industry cloud for manufacturing, to redesign and refine key components of his competitive prosthetics systems. And they say that while BioDapt has been focused on high-performance sport applications, the underlying challenge is fundamentally a design and manufacturing one, how to build complex, high-performing products that are durable, repeatable, and scalable for more people. So outside of these exciting Paralympic applications are much more common and practical ones, which the World Health Organization estimates that more than 2.5 billion people worldwide require one or more assistive products, yet access can be as low as 3% in some countries. Yeah. So there are a lot of cool details in this story. I'd encourage you to check it out. It's exciting to see an elite athlete, I think, at the helm of a project like this, because the focus will be on the performance and the durability, which is really, really important for everyone, not just a Paralympian.
Yeah.
So, and then I think Autodesk can bring more of the manufacturability and hopefully the scale in the end.
Well, and I think it is a great time to take advantage of sort of in the wake of the Olympics and all the feel-good stories and heartbreaking moments and everything that comes along with that, to see like a truly feel-good story. You know, a lot of times when we try to cover these types of stories, it's always about scale, right? Because, you know, a lot of times it's just not that many people when it comes to toys that are accessible for all kids. You know, like it's like, yeah, it would be great if we could make these, but there's just not a huge market. And I think what he's doing is incredible work in making it more accessible to more people. I mean, I have friends I have one friend in particular who is working on trying to learn how to stand again on new legs. And it is incredible to me how some of the designs still look like, you know, I mean, not a wooden leg, but pretty close, you know? And it's just like, you know, we could do better. But it's just, it doesn't make sense financially for a lot of, for that to happen. And so I found this to be very encouraging and really incredible work from Biodapt, right? Biodapt. So highly encourage people to check this out and the work with Autodesk, learn more about it. And even if not supporting it, just help like spread the word, right? Just like, hey, this is good. Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to check out the story, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's another thing that leads to the thing type of story.
Really,
without a doubt. It's a perfect explanation. And I think the biggest thing is the more of this we do, testing it and refining it in sort of hostile environments, if you will, the heat of competition, not only is that going to make the product better, but hopefully kind of what you alluded to, also bringing some of the costs down. We can manufacture it more efficiently and make it available to more people.
Well, and it's like, this is just one of the products. This is what manufacturing and design is going through right now. This like entire renaissance as to what is truly possible. And I think we're actually we're walking into another generation of that, using AI to create designs that we never knew were possible because we couldn't wrap our human brains around it. Like when we're talking about future areas of exploration for this partnership, and they're talking about, you know, new concepts that use metal 3D printing, using motion capture and embedded sensor data to have better force transfer and fatigue. I mean, you could be talking about a prosthetic limb, or you could be talking about pretty much anything that anybody uses anywhere. And so using these AI-powered tools, not just in Autodesk Fusion, but everywhere else in the industry, you know, it's going to create a lot of change in the products that we see going forward. Jeff, what's your In Case You Missed It this week?
So I picked an article. It's actually written by Chris Terlica at MaintainX, somebody we've worked with on some other things before. He wrote an article talking about how AI is not replacing factory workers, it's elevating them. We talked about industrial maintenance, and this is a scenario he sets in the article that I think we've probably all dealt with, but he says those veterans are walking out the door and the consequences are real, with longer repairs, heightened safety risks, and costly unplanned downtime. In their State of Industrial Maintenance report, they found that 71% of facilities have adopted preventative maintenance as a core strategy. Like half of them have actually spent most of their time doing the planned work associated with it. So artificial intelligence being an option in terms of helping to get ahead of some of the maintenance issues, projecting forward, and offering more efficient ways of sharing a lot of that tribal knowledge that was always in place. Yeah. How AI is going to make our maintenance workers that much better, and therefore our plants and everything else flow much more efficiently because we're using AI. I thought it was a great article because, number one, it quelled a lot of concerns out there about AI replacing some jobs. It may, but it's also here, if it's used appropriately, it makes everybody better. You can do their jobs better. Maybe somebody who doesn't have as much experience can step into some of these roles and still meet the need and do what they need to. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we're finally understanding that AI is not just a plug and play. It needs to be adapted. It needs to be used according to how any facility or operation needs it to work, and there's different solutions out there for everybody. And it shouldn't be a pressure to just use it, get it, plug it in, make it happen.
Do it.
No,
We need AI.
Figure it out. Figure out the best way. And I think when we think about plant maintenance, while extremely important, just based on all those NTSB reports and everything else we've gone over, it's maybe not something where you think about implementing a ton of technology, but really this lays out how you can use this bleeding edge technology at just a very core element of your operation. And not to go down too many paths here, but it made me think about some of the other articles that we ran. One of which was the one where Anthropic is willing to let the military use companies at their AI tech as it sees fit. So basically the Department of War says, hey, give us your stuff.
Give it to us. Or
just give it to us, or you're basically not going to be a DoD contractor no longer. And I think there's a lot of different concerns there, but one of them is one of the reasons that we're able to get AI to a point where we can plug it in and use it in a very straightforward and understood and methodical manner, like plant maintenance, which is something that affects everybody every day, is because we've allowed these companies to develop their products and seek out the technology, and then we figure out how to use it. Okay, they develop it as opposed to forcing the issue a bit here. And that's where I would get concerned. There's a lot of debate and conversation about how much government should be involved in regulating AI. I think we need to take a step back and realize, yes, there does need to be some guide rails here, but when we start forcing these companies to do different things, that has a potential to either intentionally or unintentionally hinder their growth and what they can actually do, because Anthropic does not want this dynamic in place with the government. So what is their motivation then to continue to develop new and better ideas and platforms? Okay. So I think that's something we also need to consider. And it also, that led me to another article we just posted today about new research that is showing some of the cybersecurity issues associated with specifically Claude, which is Anthropic's platform. In that basically just opening up the platform and trying to start a project can actually take you to a developmental environment where you can plug in a bunch of bad stuff and basically make Claude do bad things for a lot of different people. So again, pump the brakes on AI, figure out the best places to use it. And going back to the initial article that I talked about, there's some great places we can plug AI in as long as we don't get ahead of ourselves. So hopefully I didn't muddy the waters too much and bringing up how all those things kind of fit together in my brain, but that's just sort of where I went with some of the stuff that may have been overlooked this week.
No, well, I mean, the other two stories that you mentioned, I think, are very important in terms of not just the industry, but like how we're going to proceed forward as a culture. With Maintain X, though, I liked, because the article was about, and this is according to Maintain X, like how AI is helping preserve hard-earned knowledge, support faster decisions, and strengthen the role of technicians on the plant floor. They said it's an approach to AI that prioritizes the people actually doing the work. And that's what stood out to me the most. And I think that that's lost because it's not an either or, it's not like we got the AI so we can lose all the people. It's like a lot of things. It's like automation, right? And how it's going to be transformative and what it's going to look like in the future. Anna, when you were looking at the story, AI is not replacing factory workers. What were some of your initial thoughts?
I mean, I love content like this because in this article specifically, they got specific as to what these applications would be. I think we have a lot of folks out there in business who hear AI and it's a sort of nebulous concept to them. And yeah, again, it's like, I don't want it to take over my business. I don't want to fire my employees and replace them with AI. Those are the perceptions that people have of this technology, when the reality is it's a tool to help you be more efficient, just like so many other tools that are being used in the business now. So to see laid out like digital knowledge capture, when they show exactly like what these tools can do for you, instead of people being overwhelmed with the concept and not wanting to start or having misperceptions of what it does, it actually gives them some really good ideas to feel like maybe they could dip a toe in or find some low-hanging fruit and how to use it.
Actionable insight.
Yep.
For mine, in case you missed it, I picked a story today about how Apple is ramping up plans to make the Mac Mini in Texas. So just this Tuesday, Apple announced a significant expansion in Houston. It wants to make Mac Minis in the U.S. for the first time ever. The Mac Mini is going to be made at a new factory at their Houston manufacturing site, and it's going to more than double the campus's footprint. The company is also going to expand advanced AI server manufacturing at the factory and provide hands-on training at its new advanced manufacturing center beginning later this year. The company says that these investments are going to create thousands of jobs. Now, I chose this story for many different reasons. One is that Apple is scheduled to open this 20,000 square foot advanced manufacturing center in Houston later this year. And I thought this is cool because while the facility is currently still under construction, it's going to be dedicated to providing hands-on training in advanced manufacturing techniques to students, suppliers, and other American businesses. So you're going to have these Apple experts on hand to teach participants about some of the same processes that Apple is using to make its own products. And the idea is that it's going to help American manufacturers take their work to the next level. The other reason that I chose this story was because of the sort of far-reaching impact that these investments might have. So since Apple announced that it has about $6 billion in commitments in the U.S. last year, Apple has sourced 20 billion U.S.-made chips from 24 factories across 12 states. Global Wafers has begun production of a new $4 billion silicon wafer facility in Texas. These wafers are going to be used in Apple's chip manufacturing partners like TSMC and Texas Instruments, or TI. Amcor also broke ground on its new $7 billion semiconductor advanced packaging and test facility in Arizona. Apple's going to be the first and largest customer there. And Corning in Kentucky has a facility that's now 100% dedicated to making cover glass for iPhones and Apple Watches that are going to be shipped globally. And they say by the end of this year, every new iPhone and Apple Watch will have a cover or cover glass that was made in Kentucky. I chose this story because I thought it was incredible that Apple was going to be making any products in the U.S. And at first I was very skeptical. We'll still see if the Mac Mini is made or how many are made. But I liked the concept of the Advanced Manufacturing Center, its planned use cases, and they also have one in Detroit that's being used in the same way. Very powerful. And just when you take a minute to look at the entire supply chain and what potentially could be coming when it comes to new manufacturing in the U.S., I found it very exciting. So like any of these huge projects that we cover, I'm just like, great, let's see it.
Let's see what happens.
Let's see it. Mm-hmm. But, it's not just like, unlike some of the other ones other things that we've covered previously, we're not talking about one stakeholder in one area. We're talking about many stakeholders, many billions of dollars in many different areas. Jeff, did you have a chance to check out this Apple story, and what did you think about it?
Well, I think the advanced manufacturing center that they're talking about is always interesting. I think it's. I try to be more optimistic, but in a lot of instances, well, it is what it is, right? Yeah. And quite honestly, what it really is a branding tool. It's also a way to maybe recruit talent, understand talent. So it's playing a factor in the whole STEM movement, which is positive. It's promoting manufacturing, which is positive. But Apple obviously gets a lot out of it too. Yeah. Even just organically from again promoting their brand in a lot of different ways. So it's still kind of cool to see, but they're sort of patting themselves on the back there kind of heavily, I think, in terms of what they're doing. You
don't think that they're just gifting the manufacturing workforce with their expertise to raise all ships?
They are, and it's a real subtle sell, in terms of what else they might be doing. Yeah. I think the other stuff that we're talking about here, I agree with you. If it actually comes to fruition with making those devices in Houston, that's amazing. Yeah. And hopefully other folks can get on board. And with somebody like Apple, like you also alluded to, the supply chain impacts, people are going to follow, and that could become a real hub potentially for consumer electronics manufacturing in the U.S., which we don't have one right now. Yeah. So that'd be great. Also, just the fact that they're sourcing from all those U.S. Producers is another very positive element.
Anna, when you look at the, breakdown of the $6 billion commitments and, things actually happening, not just blowing smoke, do you remain optimistic?
I want to be, the narrative around Apple's manufacturing and supply chain has always been pretty terrible for their brand.
Yeah.
So you know that they have a reason for doing this.
Yeah.
They probably don't forever want to be associated with like the Foxconn facilities that have nets. That's like what everyone knows about Apple and their contract manufacturing and what they have to do. That's what they say. We have to do it here, and we have to do it this way. I don't know that it's had an impact on their sales.
Yeah.
But I could see wanting to change that narrative. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. It's I did have to Google Mac Mini because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
So this is like a tiny computer.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure our video department lives and dies by it. Yeah. There's one right over there.
So
that's the only reason I know what it is.
So my dad had like an Apple Macintosh in the mid 80s. So he was always a Mac guy, and he would get the Macintosh magazine, the Apple magazine. There used to be a magazine.
Okay.
It was called Macworld.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, perhaps there's still
remember that.
Yeah. So my first experience with computers was on this like old school Macintosh. So it's fun to see how small it is now. I mean, it's just things have changed a lot.
Is it, what was the one that when they came out and they were all colorful? Were they e-machines or no, it wasn't that one.
Oh, those like the bubbly ones
Yeah,
with the green and orange and...
Yeah, did you guys have one of those?
My brother had one.
Yeah?
Yeah, he got one in high school. I don't remember what they're called though.
Oh, man. I just remembered seeing those. And that was the first time I looked at a computer and I was like, oh, that is cool. And I will never be able to have one.
Wasn't that what they had in Zoolander when they're like, it's in the computer?
The files are in the computer.
Oh, man. I tried to see if Macworld magazine was still in print, and I Googled Man World. That is a
David.
different magazine. Different. Macworld still lives online. Not sure if it's still in print. Man World seems to also be a thing still. Before we get out of here, let's do our final thoughts. Anna, what is your final thought this week?
Well, not to be a downer, but we were talking about bad smelling facilities earlier, and I just wanted to mention that the town that I grew up in when I was a kid it was a paper mill town, and I just read today that they're shutting down the pulp mill in the town and laying off about 200 workers, about half the workforce in the town. The smell of a paper mill, if you've ever lived in a mill town or traveled through one, is very distinct. And it was always when it was humid or about to rain or raining, you could smell it a little bit more strongly in our yard.
Okay.
And my mom used to always say, that's the smell of money. That's what people in the town would say.
Yeah.
I think as this is what we need for our town to exist. And
Okay.
but anyway, just a memory I'm sharing based on the fact that this plant is struggling, I think, in the new economy and laying off some folks, unfortunately. And I feel a little bit of nostalgia even for that nasty smell. So maybe some people in the boiling dog vomit on fire
boiling blood
town.
and then the fire, the vomits on
Festering,
vomits.
yeah.
Yeah, festering vomits on fire.
Maybe they too will look back on it a little bit fondly later.
No, I mean, it's not nearly
Just kidding. I don't think they will. But.
No, I don't think they will either. But I mean, to that point, like, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before, but like when it's planting season, when you go into the distinct smells of a farming community, I used to hate it as a child. And like now when I'm out on, and the windows are open, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's, I remember playing on that.
Kind of takes you back.
Yeah. And Macworld stopped being in print September 2014. So out of print for a little bit.
Yep.
Still available digitally. My final thought this week is that I spent the week in Oaxaca, Mexico, for a friend's wedding. So first and foremost, congratulations, MMC and Liv. It was a beautiful wedding and experience. I highly recommend the area. It had an incredible food. Like everywhere we went, slam dunk, incredible food. A lot of mezcal, like apparently known as the birthplace of mezcal. Also had pulque. Now, pulque was what they made from the hearts of the agave plant And before they had a distilling process, we're talking like 800 AD or whatever, like 500 AD. And I was just like, is it still available anywhere? And they're like, yeah, a few bars, sure. And we walked into a bar, and Carrie's like, hey, one of the specials is pulque. I'm like, well, I said I would try it. So I go to order it, and the bartender just looks at me like, no. And I'm like, no, I want pulque. And he's just like, I'm like, I went to Monte Alban, I went to the temple, and I went to the mountaintop, and I wanted it to be a part of this like sort of spiritual experience. And he's like, I'll sweeten it for you. And man, it came in, it's, they describe it as like milky and white and like it's cloudy, and it comes out and you just think like, can't be that bad. And man, can it. So let's just say that I was excited to try it, be a part of history. And unfortunately, there was like 7 people watching me try and choke it down. So I was just like, I got to get through it. But
you don't have to anymore.
No, one and done now. It was good. But
it was not good.
So I can recommend.
Don't do that.
Who are you trying
I can recommend the beautiful town of Oaxaca. I can recommend the fine cuisine there in mezcal. But man, if you see pulque, maybe just point and be like, yeah, I know what that is. And also, yes, congratulations, MMC and Liv. And finally, it was just really great to get a bunch of texts from people as we were coming home, just like you're out of Mexico, right? Like it was just I felt a lot of the love where people are like, you're okay, right? And I just had no idea what was happening, but everyone made it home safe, and it was an incredible experience. And can't wait to get out there and see the world again. Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
Well, I know I referenced my belief in the circular nature of the sedan possibly coming back. I think that may have been influenced by the fact that I visited one of my daughters in college, and going into the apartment, not only did I see the PlayStation, like the original one,
yes,
like that I played in college, but they also had a Weezer poster on the wall. So some things will come back around.
Wait, so they were playing like a regular just
PS1? She collects.
Okay.
Her friend collects a lot of the older game consoles, so that was sitting there. I was like, well, that's
sounds like a great friend.
And again, the Weezer poster, that was definitely
that's awesome.
It all comes back around.
My goodness. One thing about Oaxaca is a lot of the 90s culture. Like I almost bought this like Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman t-shirt. There was like, I saw like Invader Zim, just all the 90s all everywhere. It's a great place to be. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us or all of us at Jeff, Anna, or David at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Subscribe to our newsletters. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you join us every week on Thursday. Doug, it was good to hear from you again. Thanks for coming out. All right. For Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.